nap. And David likes a nap. And even more naps. Aunt Linda likes to nap inside. And Aunt Linda likes to nap outside. They will take naps with their daughters. And Uncle Ken will take naps with their sons, too. And sometimes they'll nap with all their kids at the same time. But some of us just don't have the hang of it yet. Now, Dave and Scott really seem to like beer. They like it with their cousins. They'll drink it with their uncles. Dave loves to have it on vacation. And Scott, well, he likes to have it on vacation as well. They even give beer to each other as the perfect Christmas present. But do you need any more proof?
Yeah.
Yeah, click the black.
Oh, jeez.
There's those hugs again that we were talking about. Alright, good job, Scott. Good job, Cheryl. The Bracken mug right there.
Hey Ryan, you can destroy the ball now. You can destroy the ball now.
Now, Dave and Scott, they love beer so much that they'll even force it on their in-laws. But luckily, their in-laws really like beer as well. And another thing, well, apparently the Brackens drank the beer a little young. I mean really young, Andrew. Really young, Allison. Really young, Scott, again. Alright, actually, this I think explains a lot when you really think about it. And then I was looking around tonight, and this picture was taken about 20 minutes ago. That's Caleb right there, right at the back of the room, and I think he's got a firm grip on that beer. So I...
Okay, so thank you guys for coming out. We put together a little
Where'd you get your pants?
Valley Village lady section. Yes. From what I hear, they might be one of our aunt's old pants. I don't even know. Alright, so did you guys all know that Ryan Bracken, actually, is he inside right now?
No, he's working.
Oh, he's working, okay, but he was born August 21st, 1986, just a couple days away from the first ever family golf day. And only 1 year later, Uncle Ray, you may or may not remember,
Wow.
So this is the second ever Bracken Mooney family golf day. And Ryan being his first birthday right around that. Now we know that this family is 100% all honest golfers. So what's Don asking Bernie here? You can honestly call this distance a gimme, right?
Not a chance.
So did Don say he actually had a one putt over there? Uh-oh, Don, did you count that last one? So Don, tell us the truth. How many putts?
That's about it.
Isn't the priest
Gotcha.
Oh, geez.
We're all sports fans here. We love golf for sure, but we noticed that throughout a lot of the pictures, a lot of family members seem to forget exactly what sport we got together for on this particular day.
Who's that? Nathan. Oh.
That's it.
God, it must be a lot of
Lisa
that.
Yes.
Heads up! There's a fan running out on the court.
Oh.
Yeah, that's right. So let's be grateful for the last 30 years, okay? And we thank everybody here. And let's celebrate another 30 more.
Yay.
It's starting to rain if anybody has their windows open too.
Great job, Anthony. Yes, great job.
That was awesome.
We stand up here with little to say about a great man who celebrates 70 today.
So 1948, Bob Bracken was about to deliver her sixth baby child in the town of Bell River.
Leo Paul turned out to be rather spunky, and quickly his name evolved into Punky. You used to be cute.
Childhood was filled with laughter and pranks, and the records that he set in the track and field ranks.
I entered all the events nobody else got into. I was a winner.
And rather than farming, which we all know he hated, Punky threw, grand swung, he punted, jumped, and he skated. But when it came to farming, he enjoyed the war of launching tomatoes at his neighbors next door.
No butlers.
By 1980, he married his love. Anime Gone was his angel from above.
I love that.
Now, you are 6 years older and always quite fun, but there is no doubt that she's the mature one.
Look at him kissing the window.
Now, you waited 8 years before you two wed. Thank goodness for me, or else I wouldn't have been bred.
Look at the close-up.
During his 50s, he was doing just fine, because my mom was there to keep him in line. These days he's pretty good at hold'em poker, but when it comes to golf, we all know that he's still a choker.
I thought 100 was a good score.
When cheering in sports, his main beliefs are the Lions, the Tigers, and the Maple Leafs.
Yeah!
Your orientation as to why you think, Jeremy, over the years, you feel this program is really beneficial.
Thank you, Cass. I've been part of the program for 11 years now at Assumption, and I think this is the appropriate philosophy for education in the 21st century. We see increasingly that there's limitless information out there, limitless news that's coming into us, and the IB program really teaches students how to be critical thinkers with all the different types of info that's out there. So how do you know which media might be slightly biased, or how do you decipher what's true or not true? And in being a critical thinker and being balanced, and especially being open-minded, this is what we need to really cultivate in today's kids. But the second part I really like is that it puts them at a major advantage when moving into post-secondary studies. We see a lot of universities are competing against each other in order to recruit these IB students, because these are students that have proven themselves to meet the rigorous standards of these tests that they have to take at the end. And they know how to do the research and turn out really impressive essays and so on. So these universities are trying their hardest to get our IB graduates. And we've seen that firsthand. Many Ivy League schools have personally brought in Assumption students in the past, along with many of the best universities in Canada. And that's why I believe it's a worthwhile program to stay with.
Bring in Mr. Bracken here. You've been teaching at Assumption for about 11 years.
Yeah.
How do you see that those critical thinking skills, those engaged students, how does that translate into the classroom?
Well, as educators overall, we're expected to incorporate literacy and numeracy into every course. But with IB, it goes one step further, and we also are expected to put that element of TOK into every single course that we teach. And this is an opportunity to really examine the gray area, that middle ground, or those nuances that end up being in every case study, because the world is evolving and there's a lot of different perspectives out there. And the TOK really gives us a great opportunity to explore those types of issues.
Okay. So Jeremy, I know you're a very enthusiastic teacher in IB, but you want to get the message out that there's certain key components that need to be explained so that our community of parents can understand it.
Yeah, absolutely. The IB program overall involves 6 main courses that students have to take over the course of 2 to 3 semesters each. And at the end of grade 12, they'd write some standardized exams where you actually get to see how your students fare against the rest of the world. And we've actually been quite fortunate in our board over the last 12 years to exceed the world average in almost every single course, every single time. So we really got to thank our school board for really funding and supporting the program appropriately. But overall, another big part of the program is the CAS project. And that's all about community and action and service back to a need that you can identify in the community, and then doing and actually taking the action, putting 150 hours into trying to solve the problem. And I'm in a unique position where after being at Assumption the last 11 years, I've seen current students like Andy do an amazing job with their CAS project, and former students like Prakash down here actually identifying needs in communities and really changing the world for the better. I'd love to hear from some of them later on about the projects they've done too.
This is a really substantial program. It does beg the question, however, in my view, why wouldn't we want this for every single student?
Why is it in every school?
I wouldn't put every student into this pathway. I think there's a lot of great opportunities for apprenticeships, for the college pathway, and so on. But the underlying philosophies of IB about being open-minded and being balanced and all that is something that would translate to every single pathway long-term.
I hear this all the time, and point taken?
Absolutely. I'd even like to build on what Isaac said earlier about, now that's your perspective of the teachers. From a teacher perspective overall, though, we have access to so much more training, so much more collaboration and stuff, and I genuinely believe that the opportunity to go on workshops and meet with other teachers in the IBSO, so the IB Schools of Ontario, at roundtables over weekends, I get great ideas from them. I get inspired by them, and hopefully I can become a better educator and make the classroom experience better for the students too. So thank you, Isaac, for sharing.
People who are listening, you must be impressed by, this is typical of a lot of students in our schools that have a lot of energy and a lot of dedication and are really mature. I know, Jeremy, we hear of our students today not being mature, being reckless. This program or the presentation today kind of defeats that attitude, doesn't it?
Yeah, I'm absolutely impressed with students from all the 4 schools that came out here, but I'm not surprised because this program is all about character development. I mean, academia is at the center of it, but when we preach things like, be, disciplined and be balanced and be open-minded, and that's something that I think the world overall lacks a little bit today, but if this next generation of students taking IB is open-minded and wants to listen to different cultures, different perspectives, different political ideologies, and so on, I think it has benefits far beyond just within a school.
I'm looking at him like he's the guilty party.
But I'm all about the maximum GDP, the maximum prosperity, the maximum amount that we can all take home. And I love when individual businesses use that as a strategy, use green approaches as a strategy, and so on. But again, economics is the study of scarce resources, and we can't simply stroke a pen in legislation and then suddenly expect there to be no unintended consequences that come along with it. If we look at, let's say, a family-owned restaurant, and again, small business is the lifeblood of the economy. 77% of the new jobs created in Canada from 2001 to today were in small business. So the big business we like to harp on quite a bit, but people like you is what it comes down to. And many of these, restaurants who are hiring, 18-year-olds as dishwashers and so on, are not going to be able to make ends meet if they have to pay $15 an hour for every single type of worker out there. So then there's 2 options. Either number 1, reduce your labor force. And my concern is for the most vulnerable people in the labor force, the disabled, the older workers, the less productive workers. I have disabled members in my family who work for minimum wage. And I get concerned every single day that if this type of legislation passes, they're the first ones in the crosshairs where they might be laid off or their entire organization might fall as a result. So my pathway to prosperity is through keep the laws where they're at now and let individual entrepreneurs and individual corporate strategies dictate how much they should pay. And hopefully,
how do you overcome what he says?
Well, unfortunately, the reality is right now in Canada, we have corporations that are sitting on $680 billion of dead money that they've gotten. So first of all, there's no free market. There's corporate welfare. And I think this is why there's such a movement. People are angry because there's not a basic fairness in that. They're not seeing the benefits of it. So I think I'm glad to see there's pressure on increasing minimum wage and adopting living wage. I think they work together. And you've seen cities now across the U.S. who are adopting a living wage policy, and they're actually mandating all businesses in their communities to do that because they're recognizing that this isn't going to people aren't going to accept this.
The most vulnerable typically are hurt. The OECD and Canada's Ministry of Finance both indicated 10% higher minimum wage results in about 4 to 6% more poverty. So
I think my thing is, you're right.
I have the microphone. My pathway to prosperity is build your skill set. If you can add $40, $50, $80, $100 an hour because of your high degree of talent to Shane's business, he'll gladly pay you $80 an hour if you can add $100 an hour to his bottom line.
Whoa.
Would you? Would you? I know you would, though. Think about it. You get the best person, you will do it. And business owners will only pay what they can afford to pay. If you have a $12 an hour skill set, they can't pay you more than that, or else that job doesn't exist. Right. If you have a $1,000 an hour skill set, because you're the best corporate lawyer in M&As out there, you can get paid up to that amount for the firm that you're working for. So build your education, understand both sides of an argument, and understand there's always unintended consequences to every type of political and economic change that's administered.
Mm-hmm.